If you've been online lately, you've probably heard that running a business is super easy and anyone can do it. Well, that's complete nonsense. We're here to share with you the real world of entrepreneurship. Welcome to I Can't Hustle Any Harder Than This.
All right. Welcome back to I Can't Hustle Any Harder Than This. I'm Rachel
And
Wonderlin,
I'm Emily Naples.
and we are here today with a Zoom guest, my friend Rachel Ridgeway from a couple companies. Rachel, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I now have two businesses, very, very different from each other. But my main one was that we met through is
Yes.
now under the title of osteoporosis trainer. Back when we met, it was Ridge Senior Fitness, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, I am in the process of launching an online apparel company, so a barefoot sock business, which I'm sure we'll dabble into a little bit later on. But yeah, it's I think learning the ins and outs of running an online business in this capacity is very different from my other business. So it's been a fun process to try to figure out the differences and similarities, I guess, between the two.
Yeah, we met back in 2020 and we
Yes.
did a Zoom podcast interview, YouTube interview
Yep.
for Dementia by Day, so my company,
Yep.
about what you were doing. And you had just gotten
Started.
started.
Yes. So I went through what I like to call my quarter life crisis. I had a very successful IT career back then. I was an HR software consultant for about 7 years
Mm.
and was traveling a ton. I was all over the place. I had just gotten married. This was, when did we get married? 2018. And I met you about 2020. So we
Mhm.
had been married a couple of years, starting the conversations about having kids and what we wanted that to look like. And I really was in a career at that point where it felt like I couldn't have kids. It just was too hard because my husband traveled and I traveled and was just like, who's going to take care of these children? So
Sure.
I was starting to kind of reevaluate what I wanted to do. And I just was in a career that I felt I wasn't fulfilled in. And when I started kind of going back to the drawing board as to what I wanted to do, I kind of had this off the cuff random idea that I was going to start a training company because my very first job out of college at that point was I was personal trainer at a nursing home. And I'd worked with seniors most of my life, and I just loved that population, and I felt they were incredibly underserved. So I thought, you know what, I'll just try. Let's just see if I could do this. And I decided to launch my business. But that was literally about a month before COVID hit.
Mhm.
And obviously back then, I mean, I know Rachel, you were just as impacted, if not more, because you were going into all these homes at the time, but everything shut down. So as a brand new business focused on working with the most vulnerable population during that time, it definitely threw a wrench into how I started this business. And thankfully, there were still people that, I was able to connect with during that time, and I was still able to launch this business and teach classes, and I had one-on-one clients, but I had to get COVID tested twice a week.
Oh,
Um,
Man.
so it was, and it was back when they really crammed that thing up your nose. It was
oh, yeah.
aggressive. And I had to
Right.
Monday and Thursday, and then I had to wear, my mask, I had to wear a face shield, gloves, like the whole getup. So it was a very interesting time to say the least. And I remember at that time being like, there has to be a better way to find clients, especially if this ever happens again, right? Like you can't have a so dependent on being in person business.
Sure.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll venture into online training at some point, but just never really got around to it. Um, and then fast forward, I got pregnant with my daughter, middle of COVID time. So it was probably like August of 2020. And I had been in business for about 8 months at that point. And I remember thinking, okay, well, this is a new curveball. Like now I got to figure out how I'm going to be gone all day and see clients and basically run around to all these different facilities and teaching classes. And then also pay for childcare. So it was like your day is very limited when you're only doing in person and you can only see so many people. So it felt like a very limiting business at that point where I'm like, I can't really justify the cost, right? Like you can only see so many people. I wasn't, charging these insane prices to train people. And so it felt like it was like me running around with my hair on fire for not much benefit, I guess, from like a financial standpoint. Not that that was all it's about, but you also have to make a living. And so I remember being like, okay, how can I make this online practice work? And so that was when I hired my very first coach. It was actually about my daughter was
Business
roughly
coach.
around my first business coach. Yes. So I would say at that point, my page probably had, I don't know, 5,000 followers. And I felt like I was getting good traction, but I didn't know how to market to get clients to actually like train them online. Most of my inquiries were all in person still at that point. And so I was like, I cannot figure this out. Like, how do you get people to want to work with you in an online capacity, especially in my niche, right? So yeah, that was about, I think it was when my daughter was about 1, was when I finally took that leap to try to figure out, okay, how do I scale this and how do I impact more people and see more people, but in a way where I'm not burning myself out in the process.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow. What a
long
change.
minute.
How many
Yeah,
followers? That account really blew up. So how many followers do you have now, like as of today?
current day, it's I think around 104,000.
Damn.
Yeah.
So,
So okay, the coach
it,
you got a coach in
Yeah.
pretty early on.
2022, it would have
Okay.
been back
How
then. So this was the space I would say when it was kind of before this current day where everyone is doing everything online. It was like kind of at the
Yes.
start of a lot of those online programs kind of really
Yes.
kicking off. And I happened to follow a dietitian, and she started like a group program that she was doing to teach people about intuitive eating and had a lot of success. And I had just followed her for a very long time. And then after that program she ran had success, she started teaching a new class that was like, if you are a professional that's trying to do something similar, here's kind of like how I did it. And so I resonated with her approach at that time because it was very authentic. It felt like, I'm just trying to like share what worked, what didn't work, and kind of give you a fast track into doing something similar. And so obviously from a training perspective, a group program is very interesting, right? Because you can see more people in that amount of time. And I kept thinking like there's so many different things I could do with this potentially, like whether that's just like online group classes or if it's like a structured program where I actually, phase out different training phases. And so I just thought like, oh, well, I'll just inquire and see. And I ended up signing up, and that I will say I probably had a very good experience compared to a lot of people who sign up for these coaching programs. But I don't think that my page would have expanded the way it did
Good.
had I not done that. But I will say it does come with a caveat because when I signed up for that class, they had originally told me, senior fitness is specific, but it's not niche enough. You're not going to speak directly to a consumer just saying senior fitness. It's too broad. And I remember being like, I feel like that's pretty niche,
It's
but
pretty
maybe they're right.
niche.
And again, you're hiring these people for their expertise. And I was like, I'm not getting anywhere, right? Like I'm not getting anywhere doing what I'm doing now. So maybe they're right. And so they were like, take a look at your business and like, what is a way that you could really niche down from just senior fitness and try to speak directly to who your target audience is. And so at that time, obviously, because I was working with a very, very senior population, almost every client I was working with had osteoporosis.
Yeah.
And so it felt like a very natural way to niche because there's a very specific type of training that you do for someone who has bone loss. Compared to someone that doesn't. There's things you avoid, there's things you prioritize. And so I thought, okay, well, this would be a nice way to maybe speak directly to who I'm trying to reach. And I think in that process, unfortunately, I grew a ton, right? Like I had a couple videos that went viral. I had changed my handle at that point to osteoporosis trainer. So it was very specific to who I was trying to train. So I think when I went viral, people saw the handle and they said, oh, okay, she's this type of trainer. I'm going to follow that because I'm interested in that. So I ended up getting a very, very target demographic, which was great. But what I ended up finding was that it tended more to be midlife versus seniors. And so no knock on midlife. I love my midlife clients, but I think when I had started this business, it was
Mm.
with the intent to serve, in my opinion, who is a very underserved population. And I feel like because I was so focused on growth and how to like scale my business, I kind of lost sight of who I was doing it for. And so it ended up kind of on a different path, right? And I kept going pretty strong, right? Like it was great. I don't want to knock my clients because they are amazing, but it just felt like I skewed from my vision and why I started in the first place. So I had to do like a little bit of soul searching there because it was like,
Mm.
well, is this where I want to pursue? Do I want to continue down this path or do I want to kind of revert back? But at that point it had gone too far down. You know, my page blew up and I had all these new followers and these people looking for help. And I felt like torn between wanting to be a helpful resource for this population and then like wanting to kind of serve the original population that I was hoping to work with. So it was very helpful advice from like growing, you know, like you have to be very niche. People need to know who you're speaking to, speak to your target ideal client when you're making content. Like all of that stuff was very helpful. But then I felt like I should have trusted my gut and stayed the path that I wanted to stay because in that moment,
Yeah.
I made a very specific decision that took me down a very different path. So again, I had a very good experience. They were great at what they did. They provided a lot of really helpful resources and tools, but it was also, I think anyone listening that's maybe trying to grow an online practice, be wary of that because it's something that I think I didn't think through fully before I made a decision that kind of changed the trajectory of my whole business.
Now, what made it different that you were you like targeting your content to this population in a different
Yes.
way? Okay.
Yes. So I feel like it was because it's a very specific training style. Like there's certain things that you just can't do with someone who has osteoporosis because it puts them at risk of fracture. And so I felt like I was putting out information that was really helpful and meaningful for people who maybe hadn't heard these things before. Because as a trainer, I was seeing people that had osteoporosis that were getting trained by just general personal trainers that had no idea that you're not supposed to twist or you're not supposed to bend and it can put you at risk for fracture. So I felt like it was very important information to put out there. But again, in my mind, I was still targeting my senior clients because they all had osteoporosis. But what I didn't think through was that osteoporosis is being identified much younger. And so
Ah.
women in their 40s, 50s, 60s are finding out they have it, and they were finding my page. So again, it was great because I found all these wonderful midlife clients and they are the absolute sweetest. But then I felt like I had skewed from like my original goal, which was to help an underserved population. So it felt
Interesting.
like I chose like growth over like what my heart was telling me to do when I started
Ah.
this business. And so I've like battled with that for a few years now.
The wellness, industry is so fraught with
Yes.
it is rife with scams and coaches.
Mhm.
And so you have to be so careful. And it sounds like you
Yes.
actually, overall had a good
Yes.
experience, which is great.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I know people who certainly have
Have
not.
not.
And sometimes I think it's because they get a coach very early in
Mhm.
in their business. They get a coach too early and they
Yes.
get excited like, "Oh, this person's gonna help me. This person's gonna solve my business related challenges." But if they're not discerning like you were, and they don't, to some
Yeah.
extent maybe even get a little lucky with the coach
Right.
choice, um, they could end up in quite a financial hole by
Yes.
choosing the wrong person who either just like essentially takes the money and runs or sends them down a path that like actually leads in the opposite of growth. Like they actually like not only get away from like the path they wanted for themselves, but they also get bad advice.
Hmm. And yeah, how
100%.
did you vet who you went with? You know.
So honestly, it was just instinct. Like I know that sounds horrible, especially for like a financial decision like this, but
No,
it
it's
was because
true.
I think I had followed her from so early on
Yeah.
and I felt like I knew her heart. I felt like I knew how she was coming across and she seemed very genuine. And I what was great is, you have a call with her before you sign up. And she was just very down to earth. And I remember her telling me when I did my call about whether or not I was going to sign up. And she was like, look, I've had a lot of success in coaching certain people. Like, here's X, Y, and Z examples of like how you can really grow. But she's like, but I cannot promise that that's where you will end up, because it's all up to what you do with it. Like, I can tell you, here's how you grow, here's the tools to be successful. But if you're not implementing the things in the order and you're not doing the work, like, you will go nowhere, honestly. Like, you have to be willing to put in the work. And I remember resonating with that message, because I was like, well, she's right. Like, anyone who tells you you're going to gain 100,000 followers in 30 days with this strategy is lying. Like, there
Yes.
is no guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I felt like she was very upfront. And I was just I had a kid at that point. Like, I didn't want to waste time spinning my wheels anymore. I was just looking for a framework. Like, how do I build this out? And so I think at that point, it was just kind of desperation too, a little bit, where it was like, what I'm doing is not working. I need to figure out a way to grow this so that I can get more time with my kid, and not be on the road quite as much. And so I didn't do like a very thorough vetting, to be quite honest. I had reached out to a couple past clients of hers just to gauge their experience, but that was kind of it. So I do feel like I got lucky in that way, where, I should have done more homework prior to signing up for something like this, especially because it is
I
a
think you did the right
investment.
amount of homework. I think, and I think you're not giving your intuition enough credit here. Like, I
Yeah.
think, you followed her for quite a while. You had a call
Yes.
with her. You looked into previous people,
That's
and you
huge.
trusted your intuition. I mean, I don't know what else you could have done besides like showing up at her house, Like, I think you
Or done the
That's
same
perfect.
thing for a million
or done
other
the same thing for a million other
folks.
people and then
Right.
compared them on a spreadsheet. I think you did do your
100%.
homework and you did trust your intuition. I've had
Yes.
3 business coaches who I think the key is finding people who teach a very specific thing that you want to learn. One of them was pretty useless, and I think for her, I really didn't do enough vetting, and I didn't trust my gut. I was sort of like, "Yeah, this seems good," and it ended up not being so great. Fortunately, not a lot of money was spent there, but I know
Yeah.
I know somebody who dropped like 25K on a
Yes.
coaching program that totally fell through, and she had to sign an NDA to like get any money back. So I can't even like give any details about it. Um, but yeah,
Dang.
I mean, so Rachel,
It is like, oh, sorry, go
I was gonna
ahead.
say, have you had any other coaches, and have you had any coach situations that were not as pleasant or positive?
So she's actually the only coach I've hired.
Okay.
I did have a lot of people around, like, more the early days that were trying to be like, I can get you X number of clients in
Yes.
X days. And I was like, no, you can't.
This happens
Like,
to me
you don't even know what I'm trying to
constantly.
do.
I
Yes.
am
And
reached
it's
out
so
to
annoying.
constantly by people who aren't even
Constantly.
remotely in my industry who are like, I'm gonna show you I can help you make this much more money. Like, you don't even know what I
Yes.
do.
Right.
You literally have
Yes.
no idea what I do. How the hell would you be able to help me? You have no concept of
Yes.
even what my business structure is. What are you talking about?
I feel like at that time I was following a bunch of different coaches just to see like what their tactics were, how they did certain things. And then it got a little slimy where it would be like, "Oh, you followed me. Can you tell me why?" And it's
Ugh.
just like, sometimes I just want to follow somebody and not be like harassed to purchase something. Like,
Why
I
did you
felt like that
follow
was
me?
very
Yeah.
prominent during that time, where it was like, "Oh, I have X product and I can help you grow." And I was like, I just want to follow someone and not be like sold something. So I started to feel very like, I don't know. I was pulling away from that, like, very salesy, very like, "Oh, you followed me. Can you tell me why?" Because that was one thing that was kind of taught to some degree. It was less slimy, but it was like, more like, "Oh, what are you interested in seeing more of?" And I just always felt like that was kind of pushy and annoying. And I felt like people are going to be a little turned off from that. My personal opinion. Maybe
Mhm.
people aren't, but that's how I kind of feel in those scenarios. Like, I just kind of want to be left alone. Like, I just want to follow and see if you're someone I'm interested in learning from. And then
Right.
if not, I will kindly see myself out. Um, but so I had several situations like that in the beginning. But one thing that I feel like you don't know until you get to like a big account, is all the brand deals and the scams of like promote this product or we want to do a partnership. Like those to me at this level are more annoying and more prominent than like coaches trying to grow my business. So
Interesting.
what I've learned a lot is like when I first started off, I remember any brand that approached me, I was like, yes, free stuff. Like I am thrilled to make a post for you and get something in return. Like, but what I think you kind of learn as you go, like as my account grew, I started connecting with other creators who had large followings, and a lot of them were really kind to be like, hey, don't sell yourself short. Like you need to put together a package of like what your offerings are, what your prices are. And I remember the first time I saw like packaging for pricing for one creator in specific, I was like, oh my God, you were charging this for a post? Like that is insane.
What are they?
And
What were they charging? Because now I'm curious about numbers. Like, what were they charging?
so it depends, right? Like it depends on your level, it depends on your engagement, and you have to provide stats, right? But I mean, at this moment, this specific creator had probably 35,000 followers, and she was charging like 750 for a static post.
Oh my!
If
What?
not higher. But here's what, it's funny because that was my first reaction. And then I remember her telling me, she's like, they're not just paying for your time, they're paying for your direct access to your audience that you grew on your own organically. And they are literally trying to basically give you like a free protein shake or a free pair of shoes. And like you worked really hard to build a super engaged niche audience that they are basically getting for free. So it kind of reminded me of like when you had said, I saw you posted this a few weeks ago, but it was about like someone trying to get your email list. It's essentially the same concept where it's like, you just want to give me something. And when you actually take a step back and you think like, who's getting more out of this interaction? I'm getting a free protein shake or a free set of resistance bands or whatever the case may be. You are getting access to 104,000 people who are super engaged in like what I'm promoting on this page for nothing. And so it was kind of that mind shift for me where I was like, oh, that is kind of BS. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
allowed to
no,
swear?
you are. Yeah.
You're allowed to say
Yeah,
two letters
right?
that
Yeah.
mean a swear.
Yeah, we try to bleep like the F word, or like I just say like I'll label it different, but like otherwise,
Yes.
you can say shit and stuff like that. We'll keep
But
it,
it's like, truly, it is kind of bullshit. Like
Yeah.
you're asking me, and on top of that, I mean, you know how content creation takes a lot of time,
It does
takes
take
a lot of effort. I think when you do partnership deals like this, it does water your brand down because you become like a walking ad. And I
Yes.
don't think anyone really likes that. So it's also like, I've always been very selective about who I've partnered with. I've done very little for that reason because I feel like it waters down your content.
I haven't seen you
to some
do a
degree.
lot of it. Yeah, I've not seen you do a lot of it
Yeah.
because you do see accounts like you start following an account and all of a sudden the only thing they're doing is brand deals. And it's like, you're like, okay, it does water down the account.
It does.
And I feel like it makes you trust them less.
Right. What's your motivation for doing this now? Because I thought it was this thing, and
Right.
now I'm seeing you.
I thought you were just
Get
doing
money.
comedy, but now it seems like you're
Yeah.
doing whatever. But I mean,
100%.
yeah.
I was just going to say, I see ads for things, and I'm just like, I don't have any idea what the quality of this is. And I don't know if they know what the quality of this is.
Well, and to add to that, I just posted this on Substack like yesterday because I get advertised many things on Instagram, and a lot of them I do buy them.
I do as well.
I can't stop. And sometimes they're really good stuff, but I always I'll look at the site, and a lot of times on the site they'll be like, this is amazing. This is the best product I've ever bought in my life. And then you like look at it on Amazon and the reviews it has like 3.5 stars. And people are like, this product is terrible. And I'm like, huh. And I think that to me, when that happens and you see like glowing reviews on their site and then like shitty reviews on Amazon, to me, it reminds me so much of like how coaches and consultants will present themselves on their sites or on their social media. Like, I'm the best at what I do, and look how amazing I am, and my shiny backgrounds and my white countertops sitting on them drinking coffee. Like, look how great I am. And you have to remember, people can present themselves however they want
Right.
on their own
Yes.
content. And you can't vet that the way you can with like a product where you can go look at
Sure.
reviews. With a coach or consultant, you
Yeah.
have to trust your intuition. You have to trust other people's reviews of that person that you talk to. You can't just trust their shiny website.
Right. Right.
And as someone who's a consultant, I'm so aware of this because, you know, I want people to trust me.
Sure.
And I want them to be able to not just like, see my shiny website.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because there are tons of other people in my space who have shiny websites,
Right.
but are they legit?
As soon as you do that digging that you did on that product, now the person who was telling you to buy it is going to go down notches in your
100%.
level of trust in that person.
100%. Right. That's another piece
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this. This is so like, there's so many layers to
Mhm.
this. Like if you're
Yes.
making this content about resistance bands, and then you go find out, oh my God, these are terrible reviews on Amazon. You're gonna think, what's Rachel over here pitching me this product about? Like, how much did she get paid to endorse this?
Yeah.
And what I will say is like, you don't make much. I mean, yes,
Right.
there are big brand deals out there. I don't want to like water them all down because there are some that will pay. But like when you are getting, I always, anytime they're like, we'll give you this for free if you post, a carousel or if you do a reel or whatever in stories, like that's your compensation. I'm like, what do I get? Like I water down my brand. I don't even know if I like your product. So I'm agreeing to
Right.
something that I can't even try or vet in advance. But then it's like, if you take the product, you feel obligated to review it,
Mhm.
because, and again, where I always laugh is people will say like, I give these my honest opinion. I give it everything my honest review. I don't just, water things down and say like, this is great if it's not. I struggle with that because you're still getting paid,
Right.
right? Like you're not gonna take a dump on somebody's brand that's like paying you money to promote.
I love your
So, like,
your bleeping. Yeah, no,
I didn't.
this happens, we're a smaller account. I think Dementia by Day has like 11,300 plus people as of today. Still pretty solid,
Yeah.
but we'll have brands
super
like
solid.
reach out or companies reach out like, hey, can we do something? And
Yeah.
we expect to get paid if we're doing something, but I also a lot of times will turn people down, especially if it's something I cannot vouch for, such as supplements. Please do not
Yeah.
try to hit me with a supplement.
Yeah.
That ain't my jam. So I will have companies reach out to me, be like, oh, this will help cognitive function. First of all, you have no idea that that's
How
true.
do you-
Second of
Yeah.
all, like, no, like I do not want to be telling people this supplement's going to help them.
Mhm.
Like that is going to destroy my credibility, my brand. And like, I have no idea if somebody takes that and they get really sick, like, and they listen to
100%.
me.
Right. Right.
Yikes.
It's so funny too, because
So
I get a
yikes.
lot of supplements. I get so many supplements and
Yes.
people being like, oh, promote this. It helps with bone density and whatever. But like because I took that class, I actually connected with a ton of dietitians during that time. And like I've learned about how important it is to get tested for whatever you might be deficient in because it's different for everybody.
Yes.
But like if you take certain medications, there can be things that conflict and make you very sick. And so it's just like,
Yeah.
who am I to tell you like you need more calcium because you have bone loss when in reality it might be an absorption issue. Maybe you're taking plenty of calcium and now it's ended up in your tissues and that's the problem. Like there's just so many layers to nutrition and I'm like leave that to the dietitians and people who specialize in that.
Yeah.
So I steered away from a lot of partnerships just because one, I felt like, what am I actually getting out of this? I feel like I'm promoting your brand and not really getting anything. And then I'm watering down my own brand in the process. And so, yes, you can make a quick buck on some of those, but it just felt very like inauthentic in a way to me, I guess.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, if I can't make money selling my own services, then like maybe I just don't deserve to be making money online. I don't know. Like that's just, I guess, how I look at
But
it.
you
Maybe
also, I
that's
think
a little-
that's such an honest approach to running a business. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not that honest and they're looking to make a buck off of somebody, off of somebody without maybe I don't know, morality there.
Right.
Yeah.
What's their
And
priority?
I
Yeah.
don't wanna, like, I also don't wanna diss anybody that does it because I do know, like, there are some lucrative brand deals out there, and people do
100%.
need to their bills. Like, I get
Mhm.
it, and I'm not trying to, like, say that it's slimy or whatever, but just for me and my brand, it felt
Mhm.
inauthentic to, like, what I was trying to do and what message I was trying to put out there. And I do feel like when yes, I have a physical product that people can buy. I have an app now where people can subscribe for 35 a month and they get, these very dedicated targeted workouts that will keep them safe in their workouts.
Cool.
But like I'm still the product for that brand in
Yes.
my opinion, right?
Yes.
People are buying you, they trust
Mhm.
you, they trust your voice. And so I take that very seriously. And I never wanted to put things out there that I felt could be harmful to these people that are taking my advice. Um, so again, everyone
Mhm.
does their businesses differently, but I think that's always how I approached mine. And I saw a slow in growth, but I also felt like I didn't want to keep pushing these like trends and these
Mhm.
reels that felt like also kind of annoying in a way. Like I
Oh my
didn't want to
god.
keep being
I hate
like
the
okay,
meme
so
reels, like, I refuse Dementia by Day, like, Natalie,
yes,
who's very, involved with everything we
the
do. She's
socials.
our director of education and, just marketing and all these things, and she and I are on the same page, about the meme-y reels. Like, I
Yeah.
Dementia by Day, I feel like is in a very interesting space because we have to be very cognizant of our audience. Like, they're dealing with something very challenging. They
Mhm.
have someone they're caring for that they love that is living with a cognitive impairment. And there are other people in my space who I think make these sort of like kitschy little meme reels, and it makes me kind of go, "Ugh." Like, I don't want to latch on to the cutesy little, like,
Right.
I feel like Gen Z, like, reels and stuff. It's
Mhm.
first of all, I feel old and I don't understand a lot of them. I'm like, "What? I don't get it." And
You
then
can't keep
second
up.
of all, I'm
Yeah.
just like, "This is not, like, the space to be doing, like, this
Yeah.
meme shit." Like,
Right.
So
That's
I
legit.
will say too, full disclosure, I hired a social media manager back in the day because I was like, it got to the point where I couldn't manage it
"Oh, it's
anymore.
hard."
You're
Yeah, it's a
getting so many
lot.
messages, you're getting constant comments, and you want to feel like you're,
Engaging.
responding to people in a timely manner. So I had someone that was helping me like come up with content for a while, a very long time. And then finally it was, you'll probably laugh if you look at my page. I think I stopped in like February. And it wasn't to say because she was great. The girl I was working with was absolutely wonderful. I have no bad things to say about her, but I got to a place where I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be on this like specific schedule where I have to post and I have to use trending audio and I have to do all these gimmicky
Ugh.
things. Like I, as a social media consumer, am annoyed that there's no originality anymore, that
Mhm.
everyone just copies all these trends and it's all about views. It's all about getting something. And I feel like it's taken the fun out of social media, at least for me. And so I've like taken a huge step back. I haven't posted on my page since probably February. And
Wow.
Wow.
obviously I'm starting another business and that's consumed a lot of my time. But it's because I'm trying to figure out how to show up in a space that I don't really resonate with anymore. I don't resonate with like posting content in this way. And I know that's how you grow. And I
Mhm.
just don't want to do it. And
Yep.
I know that probably sounds crazy, but
No, that makes sense.
it's
No,
like
it
when you
makes
get
sense
to
to
this.
us.
Yeah.
This is why, like, I am trying to, the podcast, I'm moving more into Substack because I love to write. And I come up with like
Yeah.
funny ideas for my Can't Hustle Instagram, but then when I go to film it, I'm like, oh, like
You want
I
to.
don't
Well,
want to. I
I
don't want to do it.
I do have a question though about the social media piece.
Yeah.
What was your viral post? What did go viral? Was it when you were like in the thick of
Yeah.
things?
Ooh, what was like the first
So it's
one?
Yeah.
first one. So it was actually a video about rounded shoulders, and just like some stretches and exercises you can do for that. And it got 2.5 million views. And I
What?
remember it was like an old post that like I had filmed weeks ago. It wasn't even like a brand new one. It was old. And I remember sitting on my couch and I was like, why are all these people liking this post from like forever ago. Like it like didn't click. And then it just kept going and going and going. And then what I've learned is once you have like one post that goes viral, if you get pretty decent views on another post, it tends to catch that same traction. So it was probably like a couple weeks after that, I posted a video about balance exercises. And then that one had over 1 million views. So it was crazy because I wish I had this like cool, like, oh, I did this, this, and this, and that's why my page grew. I was just the product of going viral. And I think because it had a very specific handle, it happened to attract the right audience. So it wasn't just like random people that were like, oh, she's a mobility chick, like I'm gonna follow her. You wouldn't follow my page if you saw my handle because you were like, oh, well, this is a video about rounded shoulders, but she trains women with osteoporosis. So like it actually helped me get a very specific demographic, but it was the perfect storm of, I happened to have niche down at that point, and then I had a couple videos that went viral, and then it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. It's making me want to sit up a little.
I know, I'm like,
I know.
What made you, pivot into products? So, you've had a lot of success with the osteoporosis trainer, and then I saw like, oh, now you're into products, and I'm like, huh, interesting. Yeah. So
tell us everything.
And so I don't forget,
it's kind of,
you had a little bit of a celebrity endorsement. So please, like, share that.
Include that in the everything.
Include that in the everything.
Greatest celebrity endorsement if you are a child of the 90s. So I'll start just like kind of how I got into it to begin with. But because I'm a trainer, I've connected with many, many different physical therapists over the years, and different, foot health experts and just people, because everyone's so specific in what they do and what they talk about. And I remember years ago, it was after I had my daughter. So I have 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. And after, probably like a year after I had my daughter, I was having back pain and just, all the things that being a parent brings. That's so fun.
Yeah, postpartum will kick your ass. I mean, like also for like, it'll actually kick your ass. Like it'll literally like everything
100%.
is wrong. Stuff that I was like so surprised that was an issue.
Feel like it did before,
nothing.
But carry on.
Yeah, you wake up in a body that is no longer yours. It just feels like you're trying to like adjust to this new norm. And so somewhere around this time, obviously I'm on my feet a lot. So I kind of got introduced to barefoot shoes and the concept of a wide toe box and things, more so from like a gym standpoint. Because I was thinking, well, when I'm in my lifts, I don't want to be in a super cushioned shoe where I can't feel the ground, because that's why a lot of people get injured, right? Like you're in shoes that have a little bit of a heel lift. You're not balancing properly on the tripod of the foot, because there's so much cushioning in your shoes. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's why a lot of people want to lift in Converse or whatever, like flat shoe. So I kind of got introduced to this concept, and I thought, oh, I'll just try a pair and just to see how it goes. And I like fell in love with it. I was like, I can't believe all shoes aren't like this, where you can actually feel the ground. They have enough space for your toes. So your toes aren't crammed into this like teeny tiny box. And that's like, again, I work with older women. People are dealing with bunions. They're dealing with hammer toes. Their foot deformities are a huge cause of back pain and knee pain and all these things. So everything starts from the foot. And it started becoming this thing that I was just investing more energy into and learning more about. And so I started trading out more shoes, and I was like, man, this is like changing how my back feels. And shortly after, I got pregnant with my son. And during that pregnancy, I had little to none when it came to like foot swelling or back pain or these things that I was dealing with when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, that's kind of interesting, because the only thing at that point I had really changed were shoes. And again, I'm a trainer, so I'm in workout clothes. Obviously, I look very presentable for this podcast, but
no, I mostly live in workout. Yeah, I mostly live in workout clothes.
I'm always in workout clothes. It's just part of the territory, right? And so because I was wearing, barefoot workout shoes most of the time, I was like, wow, that's really the only thing I've changed. So then again, you go further down the rabbit hole and people start talking about socks. And in this space, most people that are really into like barefoot shoes, they will wear toe socks, which again, child of the 90s, they had their moment with me. I hated them. Never could stand the feeling of having something between my toes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember like back in the day, like those like rainbow knee-high
That was
Oh, yeah.
socks that
exactly the
everyone
thing that
wore.
came to my mind in
Same.
the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was exactly those
Yeah.
rainbow knee high. And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, why did
Yeah.
everybody have those?
Everyone loved them. And I have this like
Ugh.
vivid memory of being at a sleepover when I was like 12 and I was wearing toe socks because everyone was wearing them like for whatever reason at
Yeah,
that
why
time.
were we
And
doing
I like pulled my toes out of the pocket because I was like, I cannot stand this feeling. And so fast forward to, I'm going down this journey. I've got 2 little kids. Now I'm like paying attention to the shoes I'm putting on my kids so that their feet aren't crammed. And I start to learn about socks. And I was like, wow, socks really are not set to let your foot spread. And so most socks have a really tight elastic band across
Yes.
the toes. So it squeezes your toes together. And what's funny is I started trying to find wide toe box socks, and they exist, but they're all in Europe. And it felt extremely bougie to be importing socks from Slovakia or wherever they were. And so it was
here
like,
come my
I'm like,
socks. It's going to take them 2.5 weeks to get here.
and they will come at a premium, especially nowadays. So
Yes.
I was just like, this is absurd. Like there has to be a better option. There just aren't any brands that are really doing that in the United States. And so the further I dug, I couldn't find anything. And so it really started because I was trying to find a better option for my kids. Like I think every parent, you want the best for your kids. You want to make sure you're giving them the best and putting them in the best. And when I actually like paid attention to my kids' socks, I saw how crammed their feet were. And it's a really easy test you can actually do yourself if you do it with socks, shoes, whatever, but you trace your barefoot on a piece of paper. And then when you put your sock on, trace it again. And if you see the outline of your foot change, which it will, because spoiler alert, almost every sock is too tight, you'll see that it's just literally cramming your foot into this unnatural gait. And so you're essentially walking with your foot in a cast position for the entire day. And people
Wow.
wonder why bunions are so common and these foot deformities are so common. And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And so you start to dig and you're like, wow, shouldn't feet fit into socks and shoes? And shouldn't it not restrict your movement? It's literally like no other part of our body is casted down in this weird way where you can't fully move and function.
Except our boobies.
So yeah, literally, yeah, these, oh God. But it's like taking your bra off at the end of the day where you're like, most people have that feeling of taking their socks off because they're so tight.
Yeah.
So I started down this journey of like, okay, well, I'm going to make my own. There's nothing out there that I can find that fits the need of everyone in my family. I can't find kid socks. I don't like the adult socks. I won't wear toe socks. So what's the option? And so I went through this company. I hired a product designer. She helped me come up with my first tech pack to kind of source around to different factories. We looked in Vietnam. I looked in China. We settled on a factory out of India. And it's just been this like whole other process of learning a different type of business. But I think what resonates really strongly for me with this is it started from like a passion of not finding what I was looking for as a consumer, especially for my kids. But I also have this weird draw to it because I'm no longer the product. And I think deep down, because I'm struggling so much with like where I fit in this like social media world, I think that has been very appealing because it's like the sock is the product. The sock is what I'm selling. I no longer have to do these like gimmicky reels and gimmicky posts to get people to like buy in. It's just like, here's a product. If you like it, perfect. If you don't, that's fine too. Like, and it's more of an organic process of like presenting at trade shows. Like I did my very first trade show back in May and it went amazing. But yeah, so I think that's been part of the draw too, is that like I'm no longer the product. I can be behind the scenes, which is kind of where I always love to be anyway. I don't have to be as forward facing. And obviously right now I do just because it's a brand new product. But like as the business grows and as I get my inventory and have professional photo shoots and all of that, I can take a step back and it can just be about the product. And that is very appealing to me at this point.
And you can
in my life.
go on Shark Tank if you want.
Yes, right?
You could, because they only take like products. Well, what?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and back to celebrity
Yes,
endorsement. I
yes.
don't mind. I do. Very randomly, Paula Abdul followed my page, and I was like,
This is news to Emily. She
wait
didn't
a
know it.
second.
So you're getting her real, like
I
she's having like a meltdown.
literally,
She's gonna have to leave the room.
What?
so I wake up one morning, and I know you're not supposed to like check your phone first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah.
I do it. I'm sure everyone does it that runs a small business.
Mhm.
And so I just happened to like log into my Aira page, and I look, and I was like, oh, I have a message. And I literally fell out of my bed. I was like, Paula Abdul, like what? She sent me a message, and it literally said, can't wait to try your socks, XOP. And I was like, and I ran out of my room. I ran straight to my husband. I was like, Paula Abdul wants my socks. He's like, do you know if it's the real Paula Abdul?
That
So
would
I
be
went back
my
on.
first question too, of
Sure.
course.
Yeah. And so, because again, scammers on social media will
Scammers.
pretend
Yeah.
somebody and whatever. But so I go and I look, and it's her real page.
Mhm.
Damn.
And I literally like died. I feel like I was like, it was
Yeah.
an out-of-body experience.
What'd you
How
do?
did she find me? I messaged her back. She has not messaged me back, but she still follows the page. And I was just like beside myself. I'm like, I cannot believe I have no idea how she found my page,
Wow.
because it's got like 600 something followers. It's not by any means a large brand yet. I don't even have my inventory yet. So we're still like on the very beginning stages of all of this. So the fact that she found me, I was like, how? But like, oh my God, if you're a kid of the 90s, like she was queen, still
Wow.
is queen. But,
Sure. You should be like,
it
if
was,
she doesn't answer, you should hit her up and be like, hey, Paula, I just got the inventory in. Can I send you a couple to try?
100%.
Like, just, like pals.
I
you
mean,
know?
like if she,
yeah.
how quickly this would blow up, like how quickly your page would blow up
Oh,
if Paula Abdul like posts a picture or a video of herself like wearing the socks. Like that's it. That's like the only
literally.
thing that you're ever gonna need. It's like, there you go. Paula
Wow.
Abdul's your
It's literally,
spokesperson.
it's like, it's so, and it's what's funny. So from like a higher up, view of this business, I promised myself when I started this that it would be just about sharing something I'm passionate about, less about growth. I'm not trying to like skew the vision at all in this capacity like I did with my other business, where it became less about like the passion. And so what's been really interesting is I've had a lot of organic growth. I'm not really posting. I don't really, like, even if you look at that page, I post every once in a while, but like I have no schedule. I have no strategy. I am just sharing what feels good about the business. And then like, if you want to follow me, great. If you don't, that's fine too.
Mhm.
And hopefully the product does really well, but like, it's just a very different approach and mindset than my first business, where I was so hyper focused on growth and
Sure.
not really thinking about like the end goal, I guess.
I thought it was going to be MC Hammer, and he was going to be like, stop,
Ah,
hammer
you-
toes. How about that? Maybe you can
That
reach
would
out
be
to
a
him.
prime endorsement. Yes.
That's
That
actually a really good idea.
Yeah. We'll put it on
Emily's full of them.
Well,
She has
have you
lots
seen-
of good.
Yeah. I don't do
slogan.
any of the work, but I'll give you an
Yeah,
idea.
she's not going to do any of the execution, but she will give you a good idea.
oh my gosh.
To kind of bring this whole thing home, bring this whole thing back around. Now that you've founded 2 companies, what do you have? Like, what reflections do you have for new founders, like people who are just starting out? Like, what would you tell your former self about starting a business and the dedication that it takes, or things that maybe you would have done, maybe things you did differently this time, even though it's a product versus like
Mhm.
more, I would say, like of a coaching style, but like what you maybe thought of, or what your mindset was different than it was starting out with osteoporosis trainer.
So I think we touched on it a little bit, but I think, staying true to the vision of why you're starting what you're starting, whatever that business may be. I think it's really easy to try to like tune out the noise and like now, right? Because I've been through the other side of it, where I felt like I skewed from what I was trying to do originally. And not to say that I'm not very grateful for that business, because I am. And I'm grateful for all the clients who I've worked with over the years. But I think in my heart of hearts, I still always feel like, not like a sellout, but like I was
Oh.
focused on the wrong thing. And I was focused on things that maybe weren't like true to the vision of the business. And because of that, it skewed, the whole thing. And so I think now with this new one, I'm very intentional about like focusing on why I started it in the first place, what my goal is. Like, I'm not here trying to sell a bunch of merch just to make more money. It's like I'm selling a product I believe in. And if it does well, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I have socks for the rest of my life. So I think it's just like a very different mindset of like, whatever will happen is supposed to happen there. I still have to work hard. I still have to put in the effort and the hours. But it's more of like a traditional business approach now where like I'm going to present at trade shows. I'm going to try to approach different retailers that maybe want to carry my product versus like selling my soul to the internet and trying to just focus on growth that way. Cause I think there are other ways to grow a business. And I think we've become so in tune with like, you have to have social media, you have to do it this way or you won't grow. And I think there are other ways that you can focus and grow a business if like social media is not the way you want to do it. So that's what I would.
Can you give us all your handles, your where can we follow you on social? What's your socks? Tell us everything.
So my training business is at osteoporosis.trainer. And then my sock business is at Aira Basics.
It's AIRA, right? AIRA Basics.
Yes, AIRA Basics, BASICS.
I'm about to buy some socks.
Sames.
I know.
Me,
you gotta get
Paula
Abdul,
and MC Hammer.
And MC
all
Hammer.
gonna be wearing the right
MC
socks.
Hammer toes.
If you guys saw those videos of LeBron's feet that went viral too, I got to get him some socks.
I didn't, but
No.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look.
It's probably because I'm in a weird corner of the internet now that I like talk about feet, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like it's
it's pretty terrifying. I'm not gonna lie.
There's probably things that come up in my suggested page that other people don't see, but
some people might be looking for specific
do your
things.
thing. No judgment here.
No judgment here. No judgment.
Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. What a cool entrepreneurial journey you've had. And we can't wait to see the great things you do with Paula Abdul, who I'm 100% going to tag in this podcast and pray that she also sees this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, right? Paula, if you're listening, I love you.
We love you.
We love you, Paula.
Straight up. Thank you.
Thank you.